The school that takes this one. Our 2018 MTC Energy 100 FM High School Debate Competition champions are... Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to make the loudest noise. No, wait for that, all right? I need you to forget that you have a voice for the next day, all right? And I'll need you to get up. Yo, this girl looks like she's gonna be running. Oh, and run too, if I give you the results, all right? Congratulations to Delta Secondary School. They are the 2018 MTC Energy 100 Debate Competition winners. Guys.
It's Debatable is proudly brought to you by MTC. Make the connection.
I had somewhat of an inkling that shady deals were going down during that supposed state of emergency. The Institute for Public Policy Research recently launched a procurement tracker bulletin, red flagging issues around procurements relating to the COVID-19 outbreak during the state of emergency. I spoke to Federico Links about some of the issues that his investigations revealed.
All right, so what we looked at was emergency procurement. And I mean, it's sort of, I don't know if you've been following what's happening in South Africa. The massive corruption scandals sort of under the COVID health procurement in South Africa. So we were just wondering, look, can we, where would the signs be or the risk indicators be for Namibia looking at what's happening in South Africa? So we identified some risk indicators, these red flags. We used, for instance, the open contracting partnerships risk indicators that they developed, and some others, Corruption Watch in South Africa as well. And we came up with ours, we adapted them, and we came up with 4 risk indicators or red flags that we were looking for on the Namibian COVID-19 emergency, state of emergency landscape. And we found these risk indicators. So it was short tender periods, some as short as just 1 day, tender period being 1 day to the next. And we found the widespread use of non-competitive bidding methods. So it's all direct procurement. The third one was where just one bidder is invited to submit a bid. And then the fourth one was trying to see who these companies are, or who some of the companies were. And we just randomly chose 4 companies from various lists, and then tried to see if we could find them on the Business and Intellectual Property website, that search portal website. And also, if we didn't find it there, we'd do an information request to BIPA across the counter and see if, what we come up with. And so, we found these indicators, all of these risk indicators, these red flags, we found them on the COVID-19 emergency procurement landscape. And when we went to look at some of these companies, almost 50% we couldn't find any information on them. I mean, in some cases, 13 of them we searched for, and BIPA searched for them on their database as well, and they couldn't find them, and then they just told us this company isn't registered with us. So it might be that the company is actually, registered, but and for us, the fact that so many came up, because we went back and we did some more searches using some of the companies that were awarded contracts, and a lot of them didn't come up in these searches. So it might not be that the companies themselves are not registered with BIPA. It might be actually, the problem might actually be BIPA's management of the company's register, so that it's not up to date, it's not complete, and that's why a lot of these companies don't appear on the register. And I think that's a more plausible explanation than just hundreds of companies that have gotten government contracts are just not registered. But the issue of the red flags is a concerning issue. It's not something new. I mean, we also referred to emergency procurement, direct procurement being misused and abused, and those are the terms that the procurement policy unit itself used in financial years 2017-18 and 2018-19. So there's this culture to bypass the normal open bidding procedures of that are set out in the Public Procurement Act, and to just procure directly from one supplier. We just randomly picked 40 companies, and I mean, there are some there that you can see. These are people who are certainly have been in government and have benefited from the taxpayer in the past, and now have set up companies and are now supplying, for instance, the Ministry of Health. So there definitely are some. People buy these close corporations off the shelf that do everything. He can build, he can do plumbing, he can sell, whatever. He can do everything. So these sorts of close corporations that just about do anything. One last year he was a construction company. Now he's a supplier of COVID-19 emergency supplies. Now, we're not saying that any of these transactions are corrupt. We're just pointing out these are the red flags on the procurement landscape, and we want to discourage and we want to point this out, because we feel it needs to be discouraged. A culture, a procurement culture which is not transparent, should be discouraged.
And now the question remains, Namibia, just what are we going to do about it?
There needs to be really, this is becoming urgent. We really need formalized access to information. Because also, if you look at the quality of the reports, they differ across the government departments. So some provide more information than others, and nobody seems to be holding them accountable for the quality of their reporting. So this also needs to be challenged. People really ought to take a look at these things and ask the questions. There are some where things like meat and bulletin are procured as emergency procurement, COVID-19 related, but you have to question: is it really necessary to use that method when you're buying things like these? Shouldn't it just be for your medical and health supplies that those sorts of methods should be used even under the state of emergency? Why should things like meat and drinks and things be procured using emergency procurement? So I mean, I encourage people to take a look at those reports, and then to also ask, I mean, why this specific company? Why was only this one invited? Why not another one? Where did you get this company's name? Have they supplied government before? What is their track record? What did they charge? So I mean, the thing with this sort of procurement, this sort of non-transparent, uncompetitive, and single-bidded procurement practice, is that in sort of the anti-corruption literature, the global anti-corruption literature, these sorts of practices are correlated with overpricing, and overcharging of government. So in a situation where just one bidder is invited, you have to ask, was this really the best price? And if we went and compared it to, say, what we can buy over the counter or in the shops, in the retail outlet, is this really the best price that could be gotten?
Insurance is the best safety net you can buy yourself. It is something good you do for yourself, because should anything happen to any of your assets, you will be okay. Luckily, it also doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. More affordable, yet still reliable options are available in Namibia. The right insurer will get you financially prepared for accidents or emergencies with insurance for your phone, car, buildings, or your business. Let the Good Deal Namibia help you stretch your dollar by directing you to the one insurer that promises decreased premiums the longer you are insured. For a quote, simply SMS INSURE to 555 and we will call you back.
John loves football on GoTV, so he traded being a best man for being a best fan. Miriam stood her date up just for this matchup. Albert and his family had plans, but they couldn't miss this, and neither can you. Stay connected to GoTV this new football season for front row seats to all the football worth watching on our revamped SuperSport channels. GoTV, live it, love it.
Whilst the rest of the planet is decriminalizing cannabis, Namibia continues to create criminals by jailing people found with marijuana and its derivatives. Now, government has set up a task force to gauge public opinion on the effects of the legalization of cannabis and given Namibians a little more than a week to make their submissions. Angela Prusa, who has spearheaded efforts to decriminalize marijuana in the country, urged all Namibians to inform themselves about cannabis and make their submissions.
I think there's a total lack of education, and a lack of actually looking at the evidence that's available, for years now, I've presented the ministries, the government with education as well as the public, and when I read the comments underneath these newspaper articles, I'm in utter shock because it is not educated, researched dialogue. It's like absolute stigmatized nonsense that people are spurting out, and the fact of the matter is, our police force, is wasting valuable resources. We have so many rapes. I mean, every day there is another rape that is being reported, gender-based violence, we are finding women are being decapitated, and raped and murdered, and the same with girls. And it's out of hand, and somehow no one is ever being apprehended, yet the police come and I've experienced this firsthand, where people call the police when there's been a rape or a murder and the police has no resources to come. So they come 5 hours later or they come the next day, because they don't have a car. Yet, when you in your house have a cannabis plant, and I've seen people being arrested for cannabis plants this small, or literally, like a handful of cannabis, there is like police officers, there's the drug squad, there's at least like 5 police officers, full riot gear, then the resources are there. And then they're throwing non-violent cannabis users and cultivators into prison to go and sit with rapists and murderers, and to me, it's a gross violation of human rights. And it's also a total misuse of public funds because the taxpayer is paying for these arrests, and I've asked the ministries to release, the figures of how much this is costing the taxpayer. How much each cannabis arrest is costing the taxpayer, so people can understand where their money is going to, because we don't see people being arrested for the murders they commit, for the rapes they commit. So it's very skewed, you know, this whole policing, this whole criminalizing of people for using a plant, and that attitude needs to change, you know. It's like, what it is, it's amazing propaganda, you know. Over 100 years, the propaganda has worked so well that people now believe the lies that they were being told. And instead of actually going to look at the research that's out there, you know, people are spouting things like, you know, as soon as cannabis is legalized, you know, the crimes will be tenfold, you know, everyone will be smoking dacha and there'll be murders and pangas, and without having a look at places like Portugal, you know, that have decriminalized all drugs, you know, with great success. And, you know, of course, every substance has a harm, you know, but it is essentially how we reduce the harms of the substances and reduce the harms in society as well, because these kind of behaviors, when people take substances, there's a bigger psychological problem that we have to address.
How do people join the Cannabis Hemp Association, and why would they do that?
So the Cannabis and Hemp Association was set up, you know, the other thing that and that's one of the questions in there, you know, is like, what do you think is required to regulate the cannabis industry in Namibia? And that's a really important question, you know, because the government has no expertise on cannabis, none whatsoever. You know, they've kept this plant criminalized, and they've like happily put us in jail for utilizing this plant. You know, and regardless of all the evidence that has been provided to them for the last 5 years, they have not even engaged in creating a hemp industry, which is a totally non-psychoactive, you know, plant, which has uses like making paper, making textiles, making bricks, etc. Instead, in this last year, they have scheduled hemp and CBD as a Schedule 5 next to heroin, while codeine, you know, with huge rates of addiction in Namibia, that is essentially heroin, is freely available. So obviously the people who are sitting in these positions do not understand this plant and do not understand the regulations needed to work with this plant. And so that's why we've established the Cannabis and Hemp Association, you know, which is a body of experts on various fields, you know. So we have experts in terms of industry that correlates to building houses with hemp, so natural building, you know. We have community development people, we have professors of universities, we have medical people, you know, like people with a degree in medicine, in pharmacology. We have people who are lawyers. So we have created a panel of experts that can help assist and work with the government, you know, to create these regulations, because we understand the plant and we understand the multiple sectors that this plant can be utilized in. And so a governing body like that, an ombudsman, you know, is super important when you create these regulations, because the government has not got the expertise, you know. And so for me, it's like Ganja Users Namibia and the Cannabis and Hemp Association together should be that governing body, because we stand for the people, you know. We provide the platform for the people to have a voice of the different communities, and we have a platform of experts on the matter.
It's our birthday at Shoppies Namibia. To celebrate, we are giving away groceries for a year, beer for a year, home appliances, and a grand prize, a Hyundai Atos. To enter, simply buy any of the participating brands and drop your entry and till slip in the in-store box. Visit any of our Shoppies Namibia participating stores in Funky Town, Commersdal, Omothea, Ongwediva, Ondangwa, and Wellfish Bay today. Competition closes on the 8th of January 2021. T's and C's apply. Shoppies, great value for your money.
Holidays, what a time.
Just look. Hey, Daddy. Uh-oh. Drama. Looks like drama lives here. Could someone bring some tissues? Ooh, steamy. The perfect face beat. Looks like this will end in hunger. Smells like progress. Whoopsie. Whatever you're festive, it's your moment with DSTV.
And this holiday season is about to be lit.
Rudy Snipes, whose organization Ritma will run for an independent candidacy in the upcoming local authority and regional council elections, has actively been exposing corruption in Rehoboth. He alerted us to the dilapidated state that the once revered Rio Spa and sports facilities at the town now are.
The Rehoboth Spa and the Rehoboth Sports Stadium have always been the pride and the joy of the Rehoboth citizens. The Rehoboth Spa, if I remember back when I was a child, it was a place where you can go after school and you could have really spent time, swim, exercise, and it was at a lower cost than what the current swimming facilities is. And the best news was it was in town. Additionally, when it comes to the Rio Spa, the spa itself is a hot spring. It's a lot of tourists. It gives a lot of employment, about 60 people at a time. There was bungalows. People rented them out over the weekends especially. So a lot of people flocked to Rehoboth and spent a lot of money in Rehoboth. So a lot of money was in turnover in the town. The Rio Spa also had healing powers. The water itself had healing powers. Many of the doctors gave prescription, especially to cancer patients, like my grandfather back in the days, in the 80s and in the 90s, where they could spend time and try to find healing in those waters. However, the Namibian Wildlife Resorts revamped and turned ice and Crossbarman into state-of-the-art international tourism attractive factors, but not the Rio Spa. This very important assets for Rehoboth was given to a private investor, namely Mr. Ralph Blau and Cornelius Jafta. They did not adhere to the agreement between themselves and the Namibian Wildlife Resorts. So the place deteriorated very fast and it was closed. Then afterwards, according to the emails we received and the documentation we have, this was handed over and a contract was signed with the Rehoboth Community Trust, who also promised to revamp the place. The Rehoboth Community Trust currently have a fishing quota where it's possible for them to spend 70 million and upgrade this very, very important facility. They have a contract for 12 years. However, still this did not realize and it did not happen as planned. Currently, the Rio Spa is in a very bad state. The lawns, there's no lawn. The swimming pool itself is damaged, leaking. No water inside. The weirs, there's even trees growing in the weirs. Trees growing inside of the pool. The hot spring, algae is growing inside the pool. Some of the assets is dumped inside the hot spring. The pumps is removed. Windows are all broken and damaged. The electrical works non-functioning. the roof structure and beams is a matter of time before it collapses. So there's no maintenance and no upkeep. And this is the property of the Namibian Wildlife Resorts. In 2018, Mrs. Huaguses tried her utmost best to have this property transferred to the town council and have the town council manage it. However, the town council have other assets like the Rehoboth Stadium, which is also a landmark and a very key important facility for Rehoboth. And this facility was especially a great attractive factor to the rugby players in the Rehoboth community. This sports stadium produced a lot of World Cup players. Currently, the rugby field is full of thorns, grasses, non-functioning. Nobody gets access. No contract is given so that somebody can upkeep it. A group of soccer players have tried to do this illegally and tried to keep up the grass themselves. The changing rooms is completely damaged. So if the Rehoboth Town Council cannot keep up a simple facility like the sports stadium, how can they upkeep the Rio Spa? And this is for this reason that the Ritma team is going in full force, standing in this election to change and really change and the way and the modus operandi of the town council and make sure we deliver service. Since the sports stadium is not functioning, our children is left in the streets. Since the schools doesn't allow children to use the facilities after hours without teachers' supervision. So the little bit elder boys who are not in school doesn't have a place. So this leaves them with no alternative of entertainment or sports, and sports being a very important factor in the rising of any human being. Sports and culture is an integral part of raising young people. The Rehoboth Stadium is and was always been the only sports facility for young adults who are not at school anymore. They don't have a sports facility. Now the schools only allow their pupils under the supervision of a teacher on school premises and school sports grounds, since the upkeep of these facilities is very high. Currently, these young adults doesn't have a place for rugby, soccer, to exercise, and also to play games, rugby games. Since this sports stadium produced a lot of World Cup players, I think it is important that this needs to be restored, and only one facility is not sufficient also for the Rehoboth community, since the town is reaching 60,000 people on average or plus minus. Serious and very serious steps needs to be taken to make more sports facilities available for the young adults. Additionally, I looked into the zoning of the sports grounds, and I see the zoning is not zoned at all. That means that certainly the previous council was busy with we don't know what, and this is for that reasons that Ritma is going in again into council to find out exactly what is happening to our assets and to restore all our assets and make provision additional sports fields and recreation for our young people.
And with that, it's a wrap. Stay woke with It's a Wrap by following us on our social media pages. It's a Wrap Nam on Insta, It's a Wrap Namibia on YouTube, and It's a Wrap with Erica Gebhardt on Facebook. It's a Wrap premieres on Sunday nights at 7:30 on One Africa TV, where it just gets better.